The hardest habit that I ever had to break was smoking. Some people say that they quit in a single day, but I personally don't buy it because I believe that you can change your direction instantly, but you cannot change your destination overnight. Breaking a habit that's been part of your life for years takes more than willpower. It takes a system. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits. Quitting isn't about one decision, it's about small, consistent changes that add up over time. Willpower alone isn't enough. It fluctuates based on your mood, stress, and your surroundings. But if you build the right system, quitting becomes automatic. I started smoking when I was 17 or 18. At first, it was just a few puffs, but over time, I became a passionate smoker. If you had asked me a year ago what I loved doing most, I would say lighting up a cigarette. And yet, like most smokers, I also wanted to quit. And I can't even count how many times have I tried. I watched countless videos, tried nicotine patches and gum, and made several attempts to quit. But no matter what, I always relapsed. And I wasn't alone. Most people who try to quit smoking fail within the first year. And simply because quitting is not just about nicotine, it's about breaking a deep rooted habit. Especially, smoking rewires your brain's dopamine system, creating a cycle of craving and reward that's incredibly hard to break. But at some point, I had enough. After years of trying and failing, I finally put together everything what I had learned. I built a simple 4-step system over 90 days. One that did not rely on willpower alone, but actually rewired my brain and changed my environment. And this time it worked. Step number 1, I made it more conscious. I'm not a big Osho fan, but while I was reading his book Creativity, something stuck with me. The more consciously you indulge in a bad habit, the less appealing it becomes. At first, it sounded a bit strange to me, but when I looked deeper, I realized that it aligned perfectly with modern psychology and mindfulness research. Most smokers don't even notice why or when they light up a cigarette. It becomes an automatic reflex, something you do while talking, scrolling your phone, or just out of habit. If you want a more popular book that talks about it, it's Atomic Habits. James Clear says, habits thrive in the unconscious mind. The moment you expose them to full awareness, they start to lose their grip. Mindfulness research supports this idea, showing that real change happens when we become intensely present with our actions. So I decided to test this. Every time I smoked, I did it with full awareness. No multitasking, no distractions, just me and the cigarette. I focused on everything: the taste, the smell, the sensation of inhaling and exhaling. And honestly, when you're conscious, when you're fully aware, smoking a cigarette is the most boring thing you can do. And as time went by, the more I paid attention, the more I started to dislike smoking. The taste felt artificial. The smoke left a nasty aftertaste, and my hands reeked of tobacco. In fact, I was not getting any pleasure out of smoking. It was just a habit that ran on autopilot. By making smoking a fully conscious act, I disrupted the cycle. It was a small shift, but it made a massive difference. And it was the real step towards quitting. Step number 2 is don't be so hard on yourself. One of the biggest mistakes that people make when trying to quit smoking or break any addiction is being too hard on themselves. They believe that quitting must happen all at once or they fail. But many studies say that habits, especially addictive ones, don't work that way. In The Willpower Instinct, Dr. Kelly McGonigal explains that willpower is like a muscle. It gets fatigued when overused. If you try to quit smoking with sheer willpower alone, constantly resisting the urge, you will eventually break down and relapse harder. That's why the idea of gradual reduction is so powerful. It allows your brain to adjust without triggering a full-blown craving response. So instead of forcing myself into complete abstinence immediately, I decided to hold off smoking until the urge became unbearable, meaning I would smoke only when I had no other way to cope. Many people recommend reducing the number of cigarettes per day, but that didn't work for me. So instead of counting cigarettes, I stretched the time between smokes. First, I held for 24 hours, just one day at a time. Then I pushed myself to 3 days. Eventually, I reached a week, then 2 days without smoking. Today, it's been almost 482 days. By slowly expanding the time between cigarettes, your brain starts to rewire itself to function without nicotine. By focusing on progress over perfection, I made quitting less overwhelming and more achievable. Eventually, those small wins added up, and my cravings became weaker until smoking no longer controlled me. Step number 3, stop buying the packet. Make it harder to smoke. One of the fundamentals of breaking any bad habit is making the habit more inconvenient to perform. In Atomic Habits, James Clear explains that every habit follows a loop, a cue, a craving, a response, and a reward. If you can increase the difficulty of the response, the craving loses its power over time. When I used to buy full cigarette packs, smoking was effortless. The moment I craved a cigarette, I had instant access to one. The ease of access strengthened my habits because my brain didn't have to work for it. But when I stopped buying full packs, I introduced friction into the process. The easier an action is, the more likely we are to do it. A famous 2011 study in the Journal of Consumer Research found that people are more likely to consume something that's easily accessible. The same principle applies to smoking. If you have to go out of your way to get a cigarette, you are less likely to smoke. Your brain always looks for the path of least resistance. When I stopped keeping packets of cigarettes within reach and decided to go and get one cigarette every time the urge came up, I made smoking a hazard. Suddenly, I had to get dressed and leave my house, find a store that sells loose cigarette, go through the effort of buying just one. Every time I faced the inconvenience of going out for just one cigarette, my brain started questioning, is this really worth it? Dr. Wendy Woods, in her book, Good Habits, Bad Habits, says that bad habits persist because they're easy and automatic. The moment you disrupt automation, the habit weakens. The harder you make it to engage in a habit, the less likely you are to continue it. By stopping the purchase of full packets, I introduced just enough resistance to disrupt my smoking pattern. When you make the habit so inconvenient, you take away its power over you. One of the most powerful forces behind any habit is your environment. If you want to break a habit, change your environment. Many studies show that your brain associates habits with places, people, and objects. A famous study by the National Institute of Drug Abuse found that soldiers addicted to heroin in Vietnam quit almost instantly after returning home. Not because of willpower, but because their environment changed. In contrast, if you stay in the same environment where your bad habit thrives, your brain will continue to send signals to repeat it. In my case, I realized that certain locations, routines, and even people triggered my urge to smoke. Smoking spots, specific places like a street corner near my office triggered cravings the moment I passed them. Smoking friends, hanging out with friends who smoke made it harder to resist. A coffee routine, I always smoked with a morning coffee. So simply holding a coffee cup signaled my brain to crave a cigarette. Once I understood how deeply my environment influenced me, I started making conscious changes. I avoided the places that reinforced the habit. I took a different route to work so that I could pass my casual smoking spots. I stopped having coffee in the same place where I used to smoke. Number 2, I distanced myself from people who reinforced the habit. I avoided social settings where smoking was common. And number 3 is that I removed all the physical cues. I got rid of lighters, ashtrays, and anything that reminded me of smoking. In The Power of Habits, Charles Duhigg explains that habits follow a cue, routine, and reward loop. If you remove the cue, the craving weakens. If you want to quit smoking or any bad habit, make it impossible to trigger the craving. Changing my surroundings weakened the urges and made quitting much easier. Smoking actually changed my life incredibly. Though I've read this and heard about this in many books, when you experience it, it's a totally different feeling. Number 1 is that my breathing got better. Smoking had damaged my lungs, leading to chronic bronchitis, a condition where the airways stay inflamed, causing constant coughing and mucus buildup. According to research from American Lung Association, lung functions begins to improve within weeks of quitting, and over time the risk of chronic lung diseases dropped significantly. After quitting, I could breathe deeper, stopped wheezing, and no longer struggled for breath after minor activities. Number 2, I saved a lot of money. I used to spend 22 dirhams per pack, which is approximately 495 Indian rupees. If I smoked one packet per day, that's 8,030 dirhams per year, which is 1,80,000 Indian rupees. Over 30 years, I would have wasted around 240,000 dirhams, which is 54 lakh Indian rupees. Number 3 is that I smell better. But cigarettes aren't the only expenses. Smokers also spend on chewing gums, mouth fresheners, perfumes, and medical bills. Quitting meant I could invest the money in better things, like travel, education, and family. And number 4, my stamina got better. Nicotine reduces the oxygen level in the blood, making physical activities harder. Before quitting, I would get tired just climbing stairs. But now my energy level is better. Quitting smoking can improve your cardiovascular health by 30% in the first year alone. And number 5, my sleep got better. Nicotine disrupts sleeping by acting as a stimulant, making it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. After quitting, I sleep faster, wake up fresher, and feel more rested. And number 6, I'm less anxious. Many smokers believe that cigarettes help with stress, but the truth is the opposite, because smoking only provides temporary relief by increasing the baseline stress. And number 7, I'm happier. Studies show that ex-smokers report the higher level of happiness compared to smokers. I feel mentally stronger knowing I've conquered an addiction. And number 8, I get a lot of time back. One cigarette takes approximately 7 minutes to finish. That's 140 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes daily. Over a year, that's 851.6 hours, or 35.5 fully days wasted on smoking. Now, I use that extra time for reading, learning new skills, exercising, and spending time with the loved ones. Number 9, I saved my stomach. One of the biggest damages that smoking did to me was causing severe acid reflux and digestive issues. Smoking weakens the lower esophageal sphincter, allowing stomach acid to rise and causing chronic acidity and heartburn. Since quitting, my stomach feels healthier, and I no longer suffer from frequent acid reflux. And number 10, fewer sinus issues and headaches. I've got sinus problems and smoking made it 10 times worse. Cigarette smoking irritates the sinus lining, leading to congestion, inflammation, and frequent headaches. And number 11, I stopped drinking. For me, smoking and drinking were connected. I couldn't drink without lighting up a cigarette. But when I decided to quit smoking, I naturally avoided drinking as well, which led to even more health benefits. Studies show that quitting both cigarettes and alcohol together reduces the chance of relapse and improves overall well-being. Here are some bonus tips for you to quit smoking. Number 1, use apps like Quit Now for motivation. Apps like Quit Now, Smoke Free, and Easy Quit track your progress, health benefits, money saved, and days smoke free. Seeing real-time stats helps keep you motivated and reinforces your success. Number 2, exercise regularly. Engage in cardio workouts to help repair your lungs and boost endorphins. Even daily walks help you manage cravings and reduce anxiety. And number 3, use the 5D rule. Delay the urge for 5 minutes, drink water or tea, deep breathe to stay calm, do something else to distract yourself, discuss with a friend or group for support. Number 4, reward yourself for staying smoke-free. Celebrate milestones with meaningful rewards. For example, 1 week treat yourself to a nice meal, 1 month buy something with your saving, 1 year take a trip or invest in something significant. Number 5, don't look for alternatives like shisha or vapes. Avoid substituting smoking with alternatives like shisha or vapes. While they may seem like a safer option, they're equally harmful and can still lead to nicotine addiction and long-term health issues. Staying away from these alternatives is key to maintaining a truly smoke-free life. And number 6, remember why you quit. Always remind yourself of the health, financial, and emotional benefits. If you are a smoker, quitting smoking is one of the most empowering decisions you can make in your life. The journey may be challenging, but with the right tools, mindset, and support, it's completely achievable. Remember, every moment you stay smoke-free is a victory, and the benefits will continue to unfold as time goes on. Stay patient, stay committed, and know that you're not alone in the journey. You have the strength within you to maintain a smoke-free life and reclaim your future. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Stay subscribed to the channel and share it with someone you think who should quit smoking.